Now, if James Dean hadn't lived fast, died young and had a beautiful corpse, he would have been 54 this year. Although it's 30 years since his death, James Dean's rebellious image is still very much alive. He's regarded as a teenage hero, the epitome of a rebel, and his early death certainly ensured that his image never became tarnished, just glorified. James Dean will always represent the exciting new youth culture which started with the age of rock and roll.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're going to rock around the clock tonight. Wait, the glad night, come on, join me hard. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. We're going to rock around the clock tonight. We're going to rock, 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 till broad daylight. Going to rock around the clock tonight.
And Terry Pettigrew has been studying the man behind the myth. Terry, what was it about him? What special quality that made his image so enduring, so irresistible?
Well, I think he was forever young, of course, having died at the age of 24, long before he was overtaken by the kind of problems which overtook, say, Marlon Brando and Elvis Presley. So everybody who was a hero at that time, other than Dean, at that level and that stature, seemed to just fade and become rather not idol-like.
Would he have, do you think, continued in the same mould if he'd lived to be a normal 54-year-old? Because people's views change, don't they? They mellow and they commit a few sins as well.
It's very hard to imagine that his level of popularity would have made him a superstar. He would probably have owned a studio. He would quite conceivably have been hiring and firing other actors. He would have become a mogul, possibly, of some kind, or at least a director. And he would certainly have lost that tremendous youthful appeal he had.
What sort of influence did he exert over teenagers, do you think, in the 50s?
I think his influence in the 50s was enormous, because I think you have to cast your mind back. Well, you can't, obviously, but those of us who can will remember that it was a pretty repressive time. I mean, there's a lot of things were taboo. The class structure was very clearly defined, and so therefore you couldn't overtake, you couldn't get out of your class. And you sort of left school, you had a weekend to grow up, and on the Monday you started the job. I think what James Dean did for most of us was he made it seem possible that we could escape that particular path, that we could, if we wanted to be writers or actors or something, that there was an opportunity there if we just plugged away at it. I think that is probably the greatest legacy he left our age.
There are plenty of rebels about now, aren't there? Do you think there's still any influence left for the teenagers of today? I
think, well, everybody's a rebel. I mean, Bob Geldof is a rebel. He's a rebel in the right way, and I think, yes, but being a rebel star or a cult hero, you have to be visual. You can't be a rebel star if you're confined to records, which of course makes James Dean so unique in the 50s, because the cinema was the only place you could really create a rebel, because record stars were just record stars then. Okay, those who made films you saw, but I mean there was nothing very rebellious in the Presley films. Of that particular
How would you
period.
compare him with Presley?
Well, both mammoth influences on youth culture, youth dress, and well, the way youth paced itself at that time. But of course, Presley got old, and he took to drugs, and he just sort of disappeared as a youthful idol. Dean remains youthful. He will never be destroyed. He will never shuffle around overweight like Marlon Brando does. He is forever young, forever beautiful. Do we have any heroes now, any real heroes, do you think? Well, obviously, every generation has its own heroes, and I would imagine that they compare to the ones of the past. I just find about James Dean something very mystical, very mythical almost. And if I may just put a brief plug in, Radio 4 tonight, 7:20, we're doing a programme on James Dean, and we've got Adam Faith and Carol Baker and Ray Connolly on. And I think a lot of these kind of questions will be answered in that. OK, well, we look forward to that. We'll be able to hear what sort of influence he had on them, perhaps. Yes, everybody tune in. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you for joining us this morning.
And a show opened last week which tells the life story of another legendary Hollywood star, Judy Garland. Judy recalls the child star of The Wizard of Oz, who became one of the most glittering musical stars of the 1940s and 50s. She died alone in London in 1969, quite tragically. Terry Whale is the author of Judy and is here with us now. well, going by the success of what opened at Bristol Old Vic last week, there is still the demand for Judy Garland. There is still the memories of her.
Tremendous interest in her and her story, which was a riveting and exciting story, as well as being a tragic one. And, of course, there are a lot of people still around who remember vividly the concerts of her later years and what exciting theatrical entertainment they made. And I tried, in a sense, to recreate that excitement.
What actually drove you to write a musical about Judy Garland?
Well, partly the character of the lady herself. Most writers look for some, well, when you're writing a play at all, you look for some kind of consistency in a character. With Judy, if she appears to be the same person in 2 scenes running, then I've got it wrong. She was totally elusive, right. A mercurial character, and I think that's been a great challenge. The other reason was to find the right person to play it, of course, and, right. And I found that very person in my own wife, who played Piaf on several occasions, and suggested herself to me.
This is Leslie Mackey, who also shares the same birthday as Judy Garland as well, is the same height, and people say she looks very like her. We can see her singing a song just now. What is the song that she's going to sing?
Well, the song is by Rodgers and Hart, and it's called You're Nearer.
Leslie Mackey.
You're nearer than my head is to the pillow, nearer than the wind is to the willow, dearer than the rain is to the earth below, precious as the sun to the things that grow. You're nearer than the ivy to the wall is, nearer than the winter to the fall is. Leave me, but when you're away, you know you're nearer, for I love you so.
And we've got actually a series of coincidences here. We've just discovered that the two Terrys on our city here were actually in the same class at school, Terry Pettigrew and Terry Whale. And they've both gone on to careers, really, where they've studied the past and studied heroes. Do you think, was there something in the water at your
together
school?
once. We did school play, do you remember?
Yes, I do indeed. I'll never forget it.
A much bigger name than us and the rest of the school play. You were dressed as a girl, I seem to remember.
I played Kate in the Shrew, that's right. Yes.
I think we'll move swiftly on from that point. Russell Grant is here. Gloria Gaynor is our guest of the day. Judy Garland, she meant a lot to you, Russell. You were in musicals. She was a heroine of yours?
Star is Born. I think as much as Barbara and Christopherson and all the rest of them tried to do the remake of A Star is Born, I don't think it ever compared with the Judy Garland and the James Mason version. I mean, those wonderful raunchy numbers, wasn't there? You gotta have bells that'll ring, you gotta have songs that'll sing, and The Man That Got Away, Larry Grayson's theme song now.
Every
Is
word's
this
an
the sort
audition.
of music that appeals to you, Gloria? Or
Absolutely. Yes, I love it.
what were your childhood influences musically?
Oh, Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra. Those kind of...
Russell Grant has rather delicious-looking treat.
Yes, you
I
asked
had a word to the stars. The firmament said, I'll give her a donut. It's all you're going to get today, dear, so you might as well have it.
Thank you very
This
much.
is an old British institution.
Really?
No.
I thought it was an American
Is
institution.
it? Oh, no, I think, well, we took it over in about 1775.
I'm sure you didn't bring it back.
With a cup of tea from Boston. There you are, darling. It's an old Russell institution. And, of course, you were born the same day, aren't you? Gemini.
Yeah.
June the 10th? Do you feel that you're like her? I mean, are you likely to... Do you have those frenetic times when you can't seem to get your act together?
I think I have a sort of highly nervous energy, but I hope I don't have as many problems as she had. And I'm sort of very tactile. What did you say?
Insomniac.
Insomniac,
Certainly
yes.
shows that.
Interesting that you mentioned the word mercurial too, because of course Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and Mercury people are very sanguine and, you know, on the go and busy, wanting to be on the phone or wanting to write or wanting to call on someone. Is that like you too, Gloria?
Oh, yes, very.
What is it about heroes that we look back at these people? I mean, sadly, after they've died, they become big heroes, don't they? Judy Garland, right, she was a heroine in her own time, but it was after the death that the myths all started about Judy Garland and all the autobiographies and things.
That's very true, yes, yes. But I think we live in an age now without heroes. And while one looks back and, in a certain sense, one can actually say, thank goodness those days have ended, because a lot of people suffered a heck of a lot, it's still a bit dull now, I think, without them.
Well, let's just take a quick pause there for a last look at the news headlines this Monday morning, the last day of September. It's been a quieter night in Brixton after the weekend's rioting. The police cordon has been lifted and the area is reported to be returning to normal. But there has been some sporadic violence. The brother of the model Sheila Caffel, who was shot dead with her parents and 2 sons, has been charged with their murder. And at the Labour Party conference in Bournemouth, the National Executive have voted narrowly to back Neil Kinnock against the controversial motion from the miners. But Mr Kinnock may still lose the conference vote. That's the news this morning.
Nice. Well, just a time for a few goodbyes, I think. Gloria, where are you appearing? Where's your next concert on your
In Norwich.
In Norwich, so we look forward to that. Russell, thank you.
I'm appearing next on Radio 2 tonight at 10 o'clock. So once you've finished yours on Radio 4, just switch over and I'll be on Radio 2.
Thanks. Terry, Leslie, thank you for joining us. And Mike, and now it's back to Frank.
More plugs than a bathroom showroom here.
Because it's a trip.
I don't know if he's hearing us.
I am hearing you. Thank you very much indeed. Tell Francis we're still waiting for the fog to lift here at Bournemouth. It's a pretty parky day. And were the top of this hotel another 10 feet higher, I think we'd be in the clouds. Well,